Hey guys, it's Penguin here, and welcome back to another gold making video. First of all, I apologize, it's been a while, but I hope all of you are doing well, and thank you so much for returning to the channel, despite there being a long break. I did not anticipate going on break for so long, but if you guys do want a channel update, go over to the community tab, and I'll kind of explain the situation. But I hope you guys have all had a good past few weeks. I know 10.1.5 is coming out soon, but in today's video, I really just want to sit down and talk about a gold making fundamental. And what I really want to dive into today is the why behind gold making, and really the why behind certain items that sell, how they sell, all of that. Now, of course, that's pretty broad, but what I mean is you guys have all probably experienced seeing a screenshot of a crazy flip, a crazy item selling for way more gold than you think is worth, a crazy deal when somebody buys something for 50 gold and they sell it for, let's say, 50,000, something like that, and you think to yourself, dang, I wish I could get those deals myself, I'm always late to the party, things like that. We're going to be talking about how these situations happen and how you can start getting these deals yourself and really just kind of understand the gold making technique. But yeah, without further ado, we're going to dive right in. This is going to be just a sit down and talk video. I'll have some random footage on screen. Feel free to minimize me, put me on a second monitor, whatever you want to do, and just I hope you enjoy. And so I think the best way to start is to give you guys an example we have all experienced. And this is going to be the basic example that we have all heard at some point in our gold making career. And it's when somebody asks, hey, I'm struggling making sales. How do I make more sales? Stuff like that. And somebody says, hey, you want to make sure you sell on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, depending on your region. At the very basic level, a beginner is going to hear that, somebody is going to give you that advice, and you think, sweet, I am NA, they said that NAs I should sell on Tuesdays, let's give it a shot. And so at Tuesday it rolls around, you put up your items, and more than likely you got a lot more sales, and you probably sold some things at a lot higher price than other days. And then that means that beginner can say, sweet, that person's advice was perfect, it made me gold, and I'm going to continue to do this. And technically the beginner can stop there and just say, all right, that advice worked, thank you guys so much, let's try to get some more, whatever, and just kind of move on with their gold making career. But what we know is that there's always an underlying reason for why that works. And of course, this is a little bit of an obvious example, but what makes Tuesdays or Wednesdays so special? And aha, it's reset day, right? So the person might look and say, oh, okay, that's reset day. That's a unique day compared to all of the other days. Aha, that is why these things sell. And once again, they could stop there. But taking it another step forward, you have to think, okay, I know it's reset day, but why does reset day matter? And you start thinking about what reset day even is. We know that instances reset, so people are going to start raiding again, people are going to start doing Mythic Plus, they need potions, they need consumables, aha, okay, no wonder I got a ton more food sales on Tuesday compared to Thursday, or whatever other day. Then you think about, okay, people are going to get the vault, that means they're going to get new items, they might need a new enchant, they might need new gems, aha, no wonder my enchants do so well on Tuesday, everybody is enchanting their new piece of gear. And I know this is a more simple example, so I won't ramble on it too much, but hopefully you guys are picking up the idea. Of course, you can take, advice at face value, and yes, it's going to work, but diving in and kind of understanding the why is going to prep you for the future. But taking this example quickly one step further, some of you may tilt your head if I say, did you know that every other reset day is actually better, and especially at the start of 10.1. Now, some of you, especially if you've been in the gold making scene, you probably instantly know why, but many people might be like, okay, that sounds weird, what is going on? And of course, we have the Sparks of Shadowflame, which is the current way to make new crafted gear in 10.1. And we know that every other week, so every 2 weeks, people get a spark. So at the beginning of 10.1, people had to wait for that special week to craft a new piece of gear. So if you were let's say, a cape crafter, somebody who makes a lot of gold on capes, you are prepared every other week for that new spark, because that's probably when you're going to get a ton of cape sales. A very specific example of this is week 3 of 10.1. That is when people got their second spark of Shadowflame, and some people who were crafting their two-handed weapons, they need 2 sparks. So the first week and the second week, they couldn't craft anything because they just didn't have enough materials, and then all of a sudden, boom, week number 3, two-handed weapon sales skyrocketed, people made a ton of money, and the materials to craft those two-handed weapons went up a ton. And at this point, you've probably realized a fundamental point of gold making is that when the demand rises, generally the price rises as well. But alright, Penguin, you've been rambling on about reset day for 10 minutes. What in the world are you talking about? What is the point of this? And what I'm really trying to get at is taking the time to figure out the why behind advice, behind deals, etc., is how you start forming patterns and how you can actually predict sales yourself. What I mean by this is a simple, basic example of reset day. You learn and discover a pattern of basic gold making. Whenever demand goes up, the price of items generally go up as well. And to show this off in a real-world recent example, we have the start of 10.1, and we have Barter Brick Quest. Barter Brick Quest, many of you are probably familiar with it by now, and these are the weekly quests that reward either 5 barter bricks or 5 barter boulders. All the player has to do in order to complete them is turn in a handful of profession items, and the items required change each week. There is a pool of many professions that it can pull from and to get selected. So for example, one week could be cooking and tailoring, while the next week could be alchemy and jewel crafting items. And so during PTR, whether you were playing yourself, you were following news, you were watching YouTubers, whatever the situation was, we learned that barter bricks / barter boulders is how we purchase new recipes. And of course, everybody is going to want the new recipes because generally that means better items and better gear. And so then we slowly discovered how to actually get these bricks and boulders, and we discovered the weekly quest. Of course, we didn't know the full picture, but we did know that you could turn in some profession items in exchange for these bricks, and automatically we can see the trend of the Y coming into play. We knew that everybody wanted bricks and the demand for bricks were there. And so the players that kind of saw that Y pattern, saw that, hey, this is going to be a big hit, people are going to want these items, they started stockpiling the items required to complete those quests. Now, on PTR, we did not know the full pool of items or anything like that, but we were able to prep with the knowledge we knew. And that is how, on one of the first weeks of 10.1, I literally sold the hearty stews from cooking for literally 1,000 gold each, when pre-10.1, this item sold for literally 2 gold. The cooking weekly came around where people had to turn in these stews, and of course that means the demand for their stew went up, and boom, shot the price. Now of course it did quickly fall just because the supply in order to craft these items is pretty easy, but still, maybe I wasn't selling them for 1,000 gold a piece, a ridiculous price. I'm still comfortably selling them for like 60 gold a piece, which is still a huge increase from that 2 gold. And so this goes back to my point, my example at the start. I actually tweeted a photo of their sales at the start, and I got a lot of messages saying, hey, how in the world did you do that? I never get lucky with these sales. How did you do that? And at the end of the day, it wasn't that much luck. Of course, did I know cooking was coming around that week? Not necessarily, but I did know it was eventually coming, and so I prepped for the future. Anybody could do it, and so many other people did it if they were prepping just like me, and they kind of figured out that pattern and kind of understood, hey, this is likely going to make a lot of gold. And of course, things have dived down since it's been a long time since release, but this same phenomenon happens. I'm pretty sure the cooking weekly was back up last week, maybe it was the week prior, sometime recently, because prices shot up from 40 gold a piece all the way up to 100 and sat comfortably at about 70 gold a piece for an entire week. So using this knowledge, using the knowledge that, hey, whenever cooking comes around, prices go up, On the non-cooking weeks, you invest into those prices, whether it's the final item or the materials, and then you craft the stew, wait for them to go up in demand, and boom, you can make a ton of gold following that pattern that you figured out. But yeah, I could talk about this and talk about patterns, talking about the why certain things sell for ages and ages. But before I end this video, I do want to talk about two more things because this is where a lot of gold is made. One of the most common patterns that you pick up on just as you play through multiple expansions is that as expansions continue, as patches come out, items that are collectibles that are easy to get now become way more valuable in the future. A perfect recent Dragonflight example is actually 10.0.5 going into 10.1 current day. And many people are probably like, what in the world came in 10.0.5? It was a small patch. What in the world came in that patch that is so valuable now? And it is actually the Artisan Curio for cooking. To those who played in the 10.0.5 and played in the Forbidden Reach, Artisan Curio is probably a very, very common word that you've heard. These were profession items that were added in that patch that allowed you to spawn a rare. And at the time of 10.0.5, the jewel crafting curio is what people cared about, because the jewel crafting curio was tied to a recipe that was very, very popular for that patch. However, something that kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people was actually the cooking Artisan Curio. The reason why this one was so special compared to everything else is because a collectible pet was actually tied to this rare. Lovey, which is a very, very adorable, I highly recommend getting it if you don't already. It's an adorable battle pet and it drops from the cooking profession rare. So what you would have to do is spawn the rare with the Artisan Curio from cooking and hopefully you get that item. And of course, as 10.0.5, went on, everybody was doing stuff in Forbidden Reach. Curios got cheaper and cheaper and everybody was focused on jewel crafting. They basically threw out all of the other Artisan Curios. And myself, during that time, I picked up plenty of spice pouches for like 100 to 200 gold apiece. And so what happened, 10.1 came out, people stopped being in the Forbidden Reach, everybody's now in the Zaralek Caverns, or playing Diablo 4, let's face it, and that means less people are actually getting these Artisan Curios, but people are still farming for Lovey. Whether you're a gold maker or just a pet collector, the only way to get this pet is through this rare, so you're going to need the spice pouches. And so as time went on, as 10.1 went on, people continued to buy these curios, but there was no more gaining supply because everybody left the reach, and so supply went down while the demand kind of stayed. And current day, it's currently July 5th, and looking at the NA region, one spice pouch sells for 800 gold, and they sell commonly for that price. It's not inflated or anything, that is just the new ongoing price. And so, of course, I sold them, and I turned basically 100 to 200 gold into 800 gold. Of course, is an auction house fee. That's about 600 gold profit for literally basically doing nothing at all. I just kind of caught onto that trend and saved them for later. And things like this happen every single patch. Going on into 10.2, whenever that comes out, or even the next expansion, people are likely not going to be hanging out in Zaralek Caverns, meaning collectibles in Zaralek Caverns, things like that, will likely get more expensive, so you can kind of follow this pattern and kind of buy up items that you'd think are going to follow in this footstep. Going back to Shadowlands, if you guys played during Shadowlands, there were a handful of collectibles that came from the Maw and also came from Zereth Mortis, all of these different zones, and to this point I am selling those for like 10 times my purchase price. If you guys want exact items to just kind of see, the past sales to kind of get ideas, a very, very popular Shadowlands item was the Guillotine Sword. This came from, I believe it was Elites in the Maw. So it was very, very painful to farm, even when people were, hanging out in the Maw like normal. And so even back in Shadowlands, it was a pretty expensive sword. I purchased a few on my realm for about 175k a piece, so already pretty expensive. But if it's a pain to farm in current content, it's definitely going to be a pain whenever it's not current content. And at the time of recording this video, the current region market average is in the 600k. So if I held onto that sword and waited into now, I could basically 6x my price. Granted, I probably held onto it for multiple months, but still, that's just super easy gold for basically just waiting a little bit. But I have to admit, I did not wait, and I ended up selling that sword for about 500k. Granted, I am on a little bit of a smaller pop, but a very common example of this trend I'm talking about. Another popular one was Strange Goop. I still have Strange Goop to this day, and things like that. And to just throw more ideas out there, this happened in current day Dragonflight as well, with the Primal Illusions recipes for enchanting. These primal illusions are just cosmetic items, but you actually got these recipes as a BOE drop from Primal Storms. And of course, at the start of Dragonflight, everybody was doing Primal Storms. These were dropping, and generally they were going for a pretty reasonable price. But like I said, everybody went to the Forbidden Reach, now everybody is in Zarelek Caverns, and people just aren't doing Primal Storms anymore. Which means the prices of these recipes have gone up a ton because people still want them, the demand is still there, but the supply has dropped just because it's not really current content anymore, at least not current patch content. And so yeah, this honestly right there, this kind of strategy of why figuring out these trends is really how people make the most gold. You can make a ton of gold with farming, you can make a ton of gold with crafting, but a lot of big goblins out there make a ton of gold with flipping, and also that's honestly the easiest, but it requires a lot of experience. And so yes, this video is really long, it's getting there, but the final point I want to make is make sure you're not thinking in the wrong direction. That sounds very, very weird, but you kind of have to think from an average player point of view. For example, many people doubt when I say, hey, you should craft old world bags because old world bags sell a ton. Kind of thinking through our thought process on why, many people will logically say, wait, why in the world would people spend, twice or 3 times the gold on a smaller bag when they can just buy current bags? And generally, there is no reason. Thinking about that logical way, people should always buy the cheapest. But it doesn't work out like that. And this is because there is another underlying why that you have to think about the average player. What I mean by this is we are a creature of habits. That's just how humans are, and I'm going to use my own personal example. Especially before I kind of got into the gold making aspect and how much things cost and all of that, I had an alt routine. Every single time I made a character all the way up to probably BFA, I would always buy netherweave bags. Thinking back, thinking logically, this made no sense. Yes, it was cheap, but it was a very small bag, and why in the world would I be doing that? But like I said, we are a creature of habits. I was just used to netherweave bags, so I bought netherweave bags, and that's exactly what people do today. Heck, I still sell netherweave bags and make a ton of gold off of it. Another thing is, deep sea bags on most servers sell for a lot more gold than current content bags. Even the Shadowlands bags sell a lot more in terms of price value than the Dragonflight bags, but people still buy them. Now, of course, we don't know exactly the individual reasons why, but many people are just kind of used to those items. For example, if you're somebody who's coming back for Dragonflight and you took a break during Shadowlands, you know the name Shrouded Cloth Bag, or you open up your player's inventory and you see you're using Shrouded Cloth Bags, or even Deep Sea Bags, and so you go and buy those for your ult, mail them over, boom, you didn't even think about it. There is a very limited amount of people who actually use the sorting system to try to find the best value. People just don't worry about that, so you have to make sure you're not thinking in the wrong direction. Of course, this is all easier said than done. Hindsight is always 20/20. That's what people like to say, but hopefully this got you guys thinking, and let me know if you guys have any questions, you guys have any, thoughts or whatever in the comments down below. I kind of want this to be a discussion. There's so many right answers. There's not really a wrong answer, so feel free to let me know what you guys think. But everybody, thank you guys so much for coming back. I apologize for such a long break. I hope you guys are all doing well, and hopefully I will see you guys very, very shortly. But everybody, thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good day.